Well, welcome everybody to the Cabin Fever Podcast. Hi everybody, it's Brent Bailey, and we're back for another wonderful day of riding out this quarantine in the middle of this global pandemic. And I know that a lot of states have started opening back up, and that we are actually starting to enjoy some freedom out there. And we've been hearing back from some of you, people telling us some of the things that they've been able to do. We've been having a lot of good interaction. The other day I asked what some of your favorite summer camp memories were, because this summer a lot of folks are going to what they call virtual summer camps. And so we've been hearing a lot of things from people, the alternatives that are out there. And we're in, I think, day 61 for some states, where we're in the middle of the lockdowns and quarantining. But other states, well, I think we're getting close to 30 now, states that have started to open back up and allow their people to go back out and about. And speaking of that, I was looking today in the USA Today, and I saw this article where one of the states in the city, the restaurants are going to start putting up, let's see if I can get that up there. There it is. They're going to start putting up piping in noise and putting in mannequins for the other 50% of the restaurant that they're not allowed to open up to, so that people can come in and still feel like they're in a crowd and they'll hear crowd noise and stuff like that. So I thought that was a little creative and a tad bit unusual, but I think people are really trying to figure that out, and that's a really cool. So I want to ask you for today, for our question for the day, what restaurant is it that you're looking forward to going into the most? I know for me, I personally got a place here in Orlando that I love called Rocco's Tacos. It's right in the Dr. Phillips area, sits out on the water. Good Mexican food, and everybody calls it my office, because when people want to meet with me from the church, I say, let's meet at Rocco's Tacos and see how that goes. And so that's usually how that runs out. So what is your favorite restaurant? My kids told me the other day that they miss Kobe's Steakhouse, which is it's a Japanese hibachi style steakhouse that and they're real excited about going back to that. So what's your favorite restaurant? What is it that you're missing out on the most and that you can't wait for it to open back up? All right. I got a great show for you today. I am privileged to have my pastor with me today. I had the pleasure of working for he and Lynette for 11 years. Some of the biggest learning experiences of my life was during that time. I also went to school at Rhema in the early 90s, and he was on the short list for the guests on this show from the very beginning. And I'm so pleased to have the original director of Rhema Bible Training Center and Training College. He developed all of the curriculum. He is a pastor. He is an evangelist. He travels all over the world and speaks. He's the president of Kenneth Hagin Ministries and Rhema Bible College. And like I said, he's my pastor, and I'm so glad to have him with me today. Please welcome to the Cabin Fever Podcast, Pastor Kenneth W. Hagin. How are you, Pastor Hagin? Can you hear me? Let's see. I don't know if he can hear me. He can't hear me. Okay, let's see if I can figure that out while I'm talking here. Can you hear me now? Can't hear me. Okay. Well, he's on the screen. You can see him. Let me see if I can mess around with this for a second and get that back on. How about now? Can you hear me now? No. Okay. Well, all right then. I'm going to take him off for the screen for a second, and I'm going to figure out why he can't hear me all of a sudden. And this is the great thing about having a live podcast. It doesn't always go to plan, and it just is one of those things. All right, so let's see here. Let me drag it over here. Oh, man. Oh, goodness. Well, nothing's going to cooperate here. Well, let's see. There's got to be more than one way to do this. I've got a complete lockup here. Great. So, Pastor, I'm going to try and call you back on just a second if I can get you to. You can't hear me. Yeah. I've got a complete freeze. And so, folks, I'm sorry. This is what it is. It just happens sometimes. And when you do, when you have a breakdown like that, you just got to kind of go with it. And it is what it is. We've got a real technical problem. I talked to him for a good few minutes today before the broadcast started, and it was working great. So let's see as the computer comes back up. That's awesome. Well, as many of you know, Pastor Hagin, he is the founder of Rhema Bible Training College in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They started that in the 70s, and the first class had 58 people in it, and wow, what a big difference that is. They've now had over 35,000 graduates around the world, and you all bear with me. I think we're about to get there. I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I apologize. I tell you what we're going to do. Let's do this. Let me throw up. Just give me a second. Bear with me while we get past this technical problem real quick. And we'll be right back. All right, let's see. Can you hear me now?
I hear you.
All right, all right. It is what it is. It happens sometimes when you're doing live stuff. It just doesn't always cooperate with you. But I think, let's see now if we can get you on the screen. We're in good shape. There we go. Hey, all right. It started working now. Pastor Hagin's here, finally.
It was working fine, and mine all of a sudden I just went off.
Yeah, it was working great on this end too, but we must have had some kind of hiccup because this
It
computer
said
went
you
down and
ended.
everything.
A message came on and said you ended the meeting.
Yeah, the whole computer shut down. So I don't know what happened there, but anyway, you're here, and I've already introduced you, and everybody knows who you
Okay,
are.
okay. Hey, I was doing a live television show one time, and the floor director gave me 30 seconds, so I started closing the show, and then he went ballistic, waving and jumping, and he held up 3 minutes. He misunderstood the director, and I had to come out of a closing and go back in for 3 minutes in the broadcast. And the person, the director, said, "Man, how did you do that?" I said, "Well, I've been I've been on the platform since I was 19 months old, so I said not much bothers me.
Well, it's so good to have you. I'm just so glad that we were able to work this out, and I apologize for the technical problems. But man, it really does mean a lot to have you here today. I was telling everybody I had the pleasure of working for you for 11 years. I still consider you my pastor. I mean, you could probably tell stories already. I call you whenever I need advice and things like that, and it's so great to have you here today. It really means a lot to me. Let's just jump right into it. How has COVID-19 really affected everything going on at Rhema?
Well, I mean, about like it has everywhere else, but we just keep on going anyway. When uh, Thank God we have a governor that is a Christian, and I what I held a meeting for his father in Bruton, Alabama, in 1973. His brother was there; he wasn't even born yet, I don't think. And then his dad came to Norman, Oklahoma, pastor for years and years. And you might not know it, but Dan Morrison was his music man for a while. And of course, you know Dan.
Yeah.
And so whenever I heard that Kevin was, well, Governor Stitt, I should say, was going to run for governor, I heard he'd run for governor. I got on the bandwagon, and so he he actually has let us come back to church and we've been at this our third Sunday, and we're entering phase two today. So that's where we're at, and I just kept everything going just like it was normal service. We would go in, the music team would be on the platform, but they'd be 6 feet apart. Is empty. Nobody in there except the camera operators and the sound people, the light people, and the control room upstairs. And we carried it on just like a regular service, and the people all joined in, and we haven't had any dip in any of our finances. Everybody kept going. Of course, we've been doing text to give and online giving we were doing that before you ever left,
Yeah.
and so our people were really used to that. In fact, a large majority of our people still use electronics for their giving, so it's hadn't affected us in the beat, and it's just everybody's been involved. The one thing that Craig got them doing that really helped, he got everybody on Facebook checking in and making comments and saying hi to one another, and it seemed to bring the congregation together. It was really neat to see how it all happened.
Well, that's awesome. I know somebody said something that during this time, so much necessity has created invention in people that they've had to do things that they never normally did. So you're just echoing what I've heard so many other pastors say. So let me ask you a question, because I've gotten this one a lot. A lot of folks, knowing the history that I have with you all and have worked for you, a lot of people have been asking me, what can we really be using our faith on during this time? And I've tried to answer the best way I know how. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to ask Pastor while he's on here. During this time, where can we really be focusing our faith?
Well, number one, you focus your faith on yourself and your family, uh, and you claim the 91st Psalm. You know that's something that we always did around here. We claim the 91st Psalm. In fact, when I pray over my meals, I name every one of my family members personally, and I said we claim the 91st Psalm. I call my wife's name, my name, the kids, the grandkids, the wives of the grandkids, and I I call their names personally, and I say we claim the 91st Psalm over us. No plague shall come to us. No harm can overtake us. I agree with all of my church members that are using putting their faith out there. I agree with them that 91st Psalm is working for them, and then I expand it to all of the Kenneth Hagin ministry partners, and then I that's the way you use it. You use it the same way you do for healing or your finance or anything. You just speak to this situation. Now you can you can't control the over everybody, but you can speak to it against you and against anybody that is a part of you, because we have that right in Jesus' name, and just keep standing strong. in the face of all danger. That's what we tell people. See, they don't realize you use your faith the same way for this that you do for the finances that you need. You just speak to it, and that's the way you do it. And something my dad, you know him, and if you'd ask him, well, Brother Hagin, what do we need to do? He would immediately say to you, what does the Word say?
Yeah.
Go to the Word. He was always, what does the Word say? And that's where we are at. And just stand strong and speak like you do with Mark 11:23. Say to the mountain. Well, the mountain right now is the coal bed coming into your house, and you speak against it.
Amen. So, Pastor, during this time too, a lot of folks, now we in Florida have been in the same kind of situation that you're in Oklahoma. Our governor has really started to allow and have some freedom, and the restaurants are starting to open up. I think Disney opens up Disney Springs next week, and then they're already talking rumors floating around June for the parks. But there are going to be a lot of folks still in states where they're keeping, things locked down. And, without getting political, how can believers really use their faith and pray for their governors in during this time?
Well, you begin to do what the Bible says: pray for those that have authority over you, so you can live a quiet and peaceful life. Well, you're not living a quiet and peaceful life if they're making, and so you pray that they, even though they don't understand why, they will make decisions in favor of 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 opening up the church, opening up everything. You begin to pray for them, that people will come across their path that they will listen to, that will change their minds so that they will make a decision so that you can live a quiet and peaceable life.
Our guest today is Pastor Kenneth Hagin of Rhema Bible Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Pastor, when you were getting started, you started the training center in '74, right?
Yeah, September 1974. Graduated the first class, 58 people in May of 1975.
All right, so '75 was the first graduating class. But when you were getting started, you had left your father-in-law's church in Dallas. So you're in the middle of this transition time, and you go up there to Tulsa to work for your dad and to start and really to start the school. You didn't really understand why you were going up there, but then God showed it to you. But talk about just that transition time in your life personally. How did you go from having a pretty successful, I know we've talked about it, how you were happy there, and now all of a sudden you're going to do something the Lord called you to do, and you didn't really understand it, but you started this process, and now it's gone on to touch the whole world. But there are people right now who are hurting, who have lost their jobs, they're in a season of transition, and it may not be exactly the same as what you went through, but the principles would still apply, I would imagine. What were some things you and Lynette started doing when you started the school in that season of transition? What was the real focus for you right then?
Well, we got to go back when I first left and came, because the Lord directed me to came. I was just out on the road. I was spent 3 or 4 months on the road in the motorhome, setting up his crusades and being his director. And we did all that, did everything. But I didn't understand why I had left the church. I was destined to be the take over. But let me go all the way back. I had to leave Bible school my senior year and go out, and I went into the Army. Now, I learned something later. I realized it. I didn't know it then, but I realized that because I just settled down where we were, did what was necessary, did what I needed to do, and I learned things. And since then, I have told people that when they're in a transition time, learn what you can about that. Instead of being frustrated, learn how to make that a learning experience. Sometimes you learn what you don't need to do. Sometimes you learn, hey, I need to do this, or I need to do that. And many people that may have be in a, say they've lost their job and they're in transition, this is a good time to take an inventory on your life and say, hey, really, am I really enjoying what I'm doing? Maybe I need to change. Maybe I need to change careers. Maybe I need to change something here. When you find yourself in a situation like that, begin to look not at the problem and how, but expand your vision and say, well, maybe this gives me an opportunity to do something different, something that I've wanted to do. Also, in financial, if you're in a financial strain, many times this is the best time to begin to look and see, where am I spending money foolishly? Because many times when we have money and everything is going good, we don't even think about spending a $5 here or $5 there. But boy, when the screws are turned down, then you begin to think about that, and you can begin to realize, hey, you know what? This is nice, but I really don't need to spend this money over here. I need to put it over here. Transition time is the time to to look and see what you need to do. So in that time, I said, "Okay, Lord, you got me here. I don't understand why I'm here, but this is where you said to go. So okay, I'm gonna do the best job I can where I am." And then when He said that we're going to start a school, then it dropped in my heart. That's it. That's why we're here. Now you go all the way back, and I started. I I I was an evangelist traveling out on the road. I was an evangelist, and my education is in Bible and theology and Christian education. That was my majors and my, what do you call it, the second one you do your you know, and I didn't know nothing about starting a Bible school, so I just said okay. I took my Bible and my handbook from my Bible college, and I put together the first curriculum. And I had one teacher that was going to teach some Bible stuff, and he quit. Now I'm it. 4 hours a day, I'm it. I'm running all the office. I'm doing all the teaching, and then they sent me an employee that was making more money than I was, and he was our audio and video guy. And so now here I am, starting with $2,000 in the bank, and I just had to say, okay, God, this is your deal.
Yeah.
Now I will do everything I know to do in the natural. Now you're going to have to take care of the other side, and that comes back. Brent, you've heard me say it many times. The natural and the supernatural coming together make the explosive force for God. What happens when people get in these situations? They either tend to go too much to the natural or too much to the supernatural. But it's not all supernatural, and it's not all natural. It's both of them. You look in the Word of God. So many times in the Word of God it says, if you do this, then I'll do this, when He's working with many of the people in the Bible. And so here's where it comes back to the fact, you got to know what everything that you can do in the natural, and let God take care of the rest of it, and don't worry about it. You see, too many people now. There's a difference between being concerned and worry.
Yeah.
And my dad used to teach that, and I learned that from him. Now I'm concerned about what's happening and
Sure.
what's going on here with everything, but I'm not going to worry about it, because I know that my God can take care of it. There's no God big as my God. And this is where you got to go back to 1 John 4:4. Greater is He that's in me than he that's in the world. And this is where you've got to go, and you just got to plant your feet and say, okay, this is where we're at right now, but this is not where we're going to end up. Like I told Annette when we got married, and I told her we had enough money to go buy uh, two corn dogs and a Coke at the mall, and we'd sit there and we'd eat that. We went back and done that many years later when I could buy three corn dogs or whatever I wanted. But I told her, I said, if we just stay true to God, we'll come out and we'll be all right. And I I tried to teach that to you guys,
Sure.
especially, and I've watched you do the same thing. You went there down to Florida, and you just started. You didn't have nobody, you didn't have anybody down there backing you or anything else. You just went down there and started, and this is what a lot of people need to do. I find that in when people get lose jobs and stuff, many times if they'll just begin to look, this is an opportunity for them to branch out and do something else that they've always wanted to do, but they never had the courage to do it, and now they don't have anything to fall back on, and so they move. I've even seen people that have lost their job in a time of crisis like this turn around and start their own business, and
Yeah.
now they're a business owner. So instead of looking at the situation as, oh man, what am I going to do? Look and say, hey, what opportunity is there? See, you can either look at the problem or you can look for opportunities.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
don't know whether that helped
Oh,
anybody or
I'm sure
anything.
it did. It sure it did. I told everybody when you were coming on that this is going to be like having a father in the faith. Really give some good advice because your advice is it's so real. It's right down where the rubber meets the road. This is our guest, Pastor Kenneth Hagin, a pioneer in the faith because there's a lot of Bible colleges out there right now. But one of the originals, is sitting right here. He started what is very fashionable and what's very popular right now. I think the only other one really at the time, besides ORU, and it was even different, was Brother Lindsay's place down there in Dallas. So there wasn't 20,000 of them like there are now, and this is the OG sitting right here that started that, and he's a pioneer in the faith. Pastor, thank you so much for being here today. Before we let you go, I did want to ask you about camp meeting and graduation. I know that a lot of folks didn't get to graduate this year. I mean, they did, but they didn't get the ceremony. But you guys are going to have a ceremony this year. Is that right?
Yes. Let me go back and say something. When I started Rhema, there was not another Bible school in the world anywhere like our school, like we started our school. Nowhere in the world. Nobody ever done it. In fact, our attorney, when because we zero in, we don't have the history and the literature and so forth, which is nothing wrong with that because that's good. I had it, didn't mind. But we zeroed in on the real, on Bible and the nitty gritty of the all of the ministries.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, I see what you're talking about now. He said, yeah, I took classes that I've never used. And he said, I see what you're doing. You're paring it down. And that's what we did. Yeah, we're going to have graduation. It's going to be July the 17th on Friday at Rainbow Bible Church, just before camp meeting starts. Now, somebody said, well, we may still, but I don't believe we will. And we're believing that we're going to be able to have camp meeting and we're going to be, everything's going to be all right. But that we will have a graduation, and it's just going to be a little later than what it normally would have been. In fact, it would have been tonight, Friday night, tonight, we would have had graduation. This would have been our graduation time. And you know what? You would have been down there this morning going through
Yeah.
the graduation practice. So you done it many times.
Yep. And then we would have been eating lunch at the Mexican place.
Ricardo's.
Yeah, yeah, right
Yeah,
afterwards.
Ricardo's. Yeah.
Okay, so Pastor, it's July 17th. Are we allowed to know who the speaker is going to be this year? I know that's usually always kind of a secret. So
I don't. I think it's still the same person, but I'm not sure
okay,
because we had somebody lined up. But then you got to, now their schedule may be different, so you
sure.
have to check it out.
All right.
So I think I'm gonna reserve the right on it. I think I know who it is,
Okay.
but I'm not quite. I'm not 100% sure, so I'm not gonna say.
Okay.
Hey, that's another thing. Sometimes when somebody, and my dad taught me this, he said that even if somebody asked you a Bible question or asked you a question about something as a leader, uh, don't many people try to give an answer. It's all right to say I don't know, and so people out there need to realize it's all right to say I don't know. Don't try to
So
make
good.
up something. I tell people all the time, and I've told you many times, I don't know, but I'll find out.
Yeah. So good.
Hey, and by the way, I want to say I really appreciate you and Jody. Uh, you, you after you were not here, you continued to stay with us, and I consider you a son in the faith. And I'm so proud of you guys. I'm just going to say that right out, and I've told many people that, but I'm saying it where it's out there now. The whole world knows.
Well, wow, I appreciate it. Good night, everybody. We can end right now. uh, Pastor, it really does mean a whole lot that you took the time to stop by. We appreciate you. We love Rhema so much and love what you're all doing. We talk about you all the time. I tell your stories like they're mine. So. So this is Pastor Kenneth Hagin, pastor, evangelist, president of a major ministry and organization. He's traveled the world. I got to do some of that traveling with him, and it's just it's a great thing. So thank you so much.
Craig just told me that the graduation speaker is Bracken Christian, one of our Rhema pastors
from Texas,
out in Lubbock, Lubbock, Texas. So.
That's awesome.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Hey, thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be on with you, man.
I appreciate you. Love you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Give Lynette our love and tell her that Jody's wanting to have her on her podcast. So we're going to get that. We're going to make that happen.
She may be listening. She's probably in there listening in her office. Or you know how our offices are.
Right there.
She's there.
So I just say hi. Hi, Lynette.
Okay.
All right, Pastor. Have a great rest of your day. We love you. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
You do the same.
Okay. All right. Love you. Bye-bye. All right, that's Pastor Hagin of Rhema Bible College, and I'm so sorry that we had so much issues with technical problems today, but that's one of the things about being on a live show. It just happens. So thanks again for listening today and sticking with us through that. We'll have Lynette on, I'm sure, in the near future. Before we get out of here today, I do want to thank all of you who are supporting us and sharing the podcast. If you're watching on Facebook or if you're watching on Twitter, just go ahead and click that share button right there and send this around the world. You can also, let me throw it up on the screen there, you can also relive any of our podcasts on any of these platforms. We're on a ton of different podcasting platforms. We're also on Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku. So you can sure follow us on all of those platforms as well. Coming up Monday on the program, I got a great show for you. I've got NWA wrestling champion Nikita Koloff. He was part of the Koloffs in the 80s. Uncle Ivan, and then he was the Russian Nightmare. Also wrestled with Dusty Rhodes. He's now saved, on fire for God, doing some great things in men's ministry, so you don't want to miss that. Excuse me, on Monday. Then on Wednesday, I've got somebody that grew up in the youth group with me when I was at Rhema, Annie Dixon. She was Annie Cogshaw at the time, and her husband, Colton, are going to be with us on Wednesday. And then Friday next week, I've got Christian author John Mason's going to be joining us. So we love you guys. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Get outside and break that cabin fever, everybody. Have a great day.